We see you, dinosaur roar. Good job.
Girl, you got me shook from the way your body looks. Got me riding hooks, got me feeling like a rook. I don't do it by the book, but for you I'll take a look. Don't know what your mama took, sweet and spicy like a cook, yeah. I'll keep it real, let's make a deal. Buy you a meal if you just let me feel. Get out your heels, grab on the wheel. Back to my place at the top of the hill. Don't have regrets, I know what's next. She need a fresh, I'll be back in a sec. Look at them legs, don't make me beg. Back to the room, let me show you my bed. Touching on your body feels like taking on a drug. You got me feeling good, yeah, you got me feeling
Hello and welcome back to Hindsight is 50/50. This is episode number 9. I am your host, J-Rod, with my co-host, the ORG, old retired guy. Dad, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I think I'm doing better than you. You said you've been sick again.
Yeah, you know, it seems to be a common theme with me, but luckily it seems like I'm coming out the other side of it. So hopefully keep feeling better. Yeah.
That's good. Happy Halloween to everybody. I know you have big plans tonight with the family, and that's exciting. Those are all good things.
Yeah, happy Halloween, everybody. So our plans are to trick or treat with the boys. I have 2 little boys, and Melissa's friends live in a neighborhood that puts on like a very large scale trick or treating event where everyone decorates their yards, and it's a pretty enormous subdivision to walk through. It takes quite a bit of time. So the kids get a lot of candy. You're in one of the wealthier neighborhoods, so you get full size candy bars.
That's always good.
Yeah, it is. And so we went there last year. Unfortunately, it was raining, so you know it got cut kind of short. It seems like that may be the case this year. But her friends are Karen and Nick, and we're gonna go over to Karen and Nick's house with both Nick's parents and Karen's parents will be there, and then Karen and Nick have 2 young little daughters that are the same age as my oldest son, JJ. And so we'll all go over and have like a mini pizza party. And then after that, we all go trick-or-treating together. And so the adults, you just, you got like a shot in your hot chocolate or your cider or whatever, and you're walking around just having a nice little drink, talking with parents while all the kids get to run up to the houses, and it's very safe and very nice.
That's my kind of Halloween trick or treating.
Yeah, right, I love when, speaking of that, one of my favorite things that they do for events, whether it's Halloween or Christmas, at the Detroit Zoo, you can get peppermint schnapps in your hot chocolate at their stands, and it's like, well, that'll warm you up a little bit, especially.
We did that. We did that when we saw the lights. I remember doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
getting the cocoa and with the peppermint schnapps in it. That was
it's
nice.
Good. And it keeps you warm.
It helps.
But, so no, it should be exciting. I know that the boys are very excited. So this year our costume, and I don't know what Nick and Karen and their kids are going as, but this year our family is doing like a theme costume. And so we're doing Jurassic Park. And so I'm essentially the lead paleontologist, the main character. I do not know the 2 names of the characters, but the female who's, kind of like secretly in love with him in the Jurassic Park movies.
Laura Dern played the female part in the movie.
Yeah.
In the original Jurassic Park movie. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like the other doctor or paleontologist, right?
Yes.
So, so Melissa will be playing her, and then JJ is a T-Rex and JR is a raptor. No. And their costumes are legit. I mean, like if you bought that in my size, you'd be spending like $500. Like their costumes are legit.
Well, I've seen JJ with his on. Do you? And JJ's just over 3, just turned 3.
Yes.
And JR is a year and 4 months.
That sounds about right. I'm not about to do the math, but you're in the ballpark.
So, but I mean, I'm just wondering, is he going to hold up? Is his interest going to wane?
He'll be fine, and he'll be happy to see everyone. Again, it's all about scheduling your nap times for the day, right? So making sure everyone's not too tired. But with JR, that kid's a human garbage disposal.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
for
he
sure.
eats everything, and so having a pizza party right beforehand, that fat kid's going to be in a great mood.
Well, yeah, that's
but
what I wondered, if he'd want to take a snooze, you know.
No, he's usually pretty good. He actually likes to walk quite a bit. He gets like a little more upset when you try and make him ride in one of the wagons or something. The only thing with JR is that he does not understand the concept of the costume. And so he'll wear whatever you want him to wear, but when you
Sure.
put the raptor head on him, he starts to get a little finicky. So we might have to put it on at the house so he can throw his hissy fit, and then by the time we get out and about, he's in a good mood.
Oh, now, are all the parents, well, I know you don't know all the parents in the subdivision where the trick-or-treating thing is, but Nick and Karen are dressing up for sure too.
Yeah, so last year, Nick and Karen dressed up, and I believe Karen's parents matched them. I don't remember what their outfit was, but I believe they dressed up. And then I know that Nick's parents also dress up. It's not, they're not wearing like unicorn suits or anything like that. It's much more like simplistic adult costume, but everyone's going to be dressed up.
Okay, just FYI, I looked it up because I couldn't remember their names. So, in the original Jurassic Park, Laura Dern, who your wife Melissa is going to play, she was Dr. Sattler. And in the original Jurassic Park, Sam Neill played Dr. Grant. And that's who you're going
Dr.
as.
Grant. Yeah, and I borrowed one of your hats.
Yeah, and that hat's going to make it work?
Yeah, that hat'll make it work. I mean, like, so you've seen them, but I have, obviously my regular boots, but then I have some Duluth fire hose pants that are like khaki color.
Yeah, like cargo pants like he wore in the movie.
Yeah, a belt that matches. I have the jean shirt that matches, the red bandana. Yeah, and then I'll have that hat that you gave me.
That's
and
cool.
Melissa's rocking, a similar outfit to what the female character wears in the movie, but it's going to be cold, so she's wearing khaki pants instead of shorts.
I do not blame her there.
I gave her so much shit.
I do not blame her for that. That would be that. Yeah, it would get chilly, but yeah, I mean, I think that's cool. I mean, I just think that's cool that you guys not only are doing that for the kids, but that you're dressing up too and going along with them. I just think that's a good thing.
That's one of the reasons Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. It's not one of the most important for family reasons or religious reasons, but
sure,
it's one of the more fun ones for me, because it's not just entertaining for the kids, it's also entertaining for the adults, and it gives you like a reason to be a kid again. Like, you're not an idiot for dressing up on Halloween, right? So you get to go out and have fun while you watch your kids have fun, and then you come home and you're like, all right, well, the boys can't have this much candy, so it's time for me to take my dad tax. And you get a little bit of candy at the end of the night too, and all you did was go hang out with your friends and talk all night.
Well, it's and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's Halloween gives adults license to be a fool, to get crazy. Your mom and my first date was on Halloween, and we went to a costume party first that was at a local bar in Jackson, Michigan. And then we went to a wedding reception. And we went in the costumes that we wore to the costume party. And
How bad was it?
it was, well, let's just say everybody had fun, but some of those, back when I was a younger guy, before I got married to your mom, some of those Halloween parties were pretty crazy. I mean, there's a lot of creative costumes. We actually went to one it was when you guys were locally in Manchester. You guys were all in school, and it was at the Carey's house. And there were, Tedonios were there. I think Malley's were there. I know Lou Way and his wife were there. And everybody was dressed up, and it was hilarious. I mean,
you don't need an excuse to get country parents hammered.
Well, and the costumes were really creative. Like one of the dads was wearing this box, and it said, and it was a cardboard box, but it was all decorated, and it had 2 holes in the front, and it said portable mammogram. I mean,
that's awesome.
No, I
love the ones.
And it was one of the guys who is a very reserved and quiet guy, and you would not expect that out of him, or I didn't, right. And I wouldn't have. But it was, it gives people license to get crazy, and seeing going to some of those parties when in my younger days out at the bars it was crazy, and it was fun seeing the creativity of a lot of people in like that idea. And it was hilarious costume, and he had on
go ahead,
the little surgical cap that a doctor wears. And I think he had the mirror thing on his head, but then this box, and with holes in the front.
Put your tits here.
And it was a portable mammogram.
I'm not kidding. When couples have a costume though, like along those same lines, I remember seeing it for the first time when I was a little kid. My favorite one is when the dad is like a plug, like a 2-pronged plug, and the mom's an outlet.
Yes. Yes, I've seen a nut and a bolt.
Like that.
I've seen a nut and a bolt.
Yeah.
Ball
and chain. Neighbors, that's what you and mom need to go ask.
The Malleys, it wasn't very long after they built their house. It might have been a year or two after they're our next door neighbors, and they're good neighbors. But we hadn't, we hadn't done a lot of things socially with them. And they invited us to a costume party. And it was that same group of people that had been at the Careys, because they all kind of hung out together. And it was a gas. It was great.
It seems like the parents of Manchester really know how to throw a party. I will say that.
And the great news about this was you could walk home.
Right. I might not make it far, but I can make it there.
Yeah. All I had to do was walk up a little hill, and I was home.
Yeah. But I bet it seemed like a big fucking hill at the end of the night.
Yeah. By the time the evening wore on,
they find you halfway up the hill, just laying in the drive.
I went as a biker dude, and I had a big biker mask with the silly, the hat with the chains on it, and I had a wallet with a chain, and I can't remember what I had all the I wore a leather vest, and I wore the little fingerless gloves. So, I didn't have to go far to get a lot of the biker stuff, but your mom bought me and it was a mask with a guy with a big scar on his face. And she went as a witch, and she was fantastic. That was a great witch costume that your mom did that year. But, I remember because, our neighbors are really nice neighbors, and they're both seem quiet. Like I said, we don't socialize a lot. Well, we went down there and we just had a great time. We really had a lot of fun. So I'm sure you guys will have fun. I just think it's really cool that the kids that you're doing that for them, but that you're involved in it too by dressing up. I think that's neat. I hope that a lot of the parents that you see tonight are doing the same thing.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. JJ just came in here. I was telling them to go get his mama real quick. No, it's going to be really cool. Another cool thing is that Nick and Karen's daughters both really get along with JJ, and they're adorable. So they'll be passing candy back and forth and
They have
sharing.
twins, right?
Yes, twin daughters.
That's cool. And I know that Karen and your wife Melissa are close. That's a cool thing. They're
just good people. I mean, other than Nick being a State fan, which just
that's okay.
He just must not be thinking clearly. But other than that, they're really good people. So,
well, I hope the weather. I hope the weather holds. You know, it's kind of gray here, but I think the rain here is done for the day. That's what
it seems to have chilled out here as well. But I kind of want to go back to you meeting Mom at this party, or your first date being at this party. What were your costumes?
Mm-hmm. I was dressed as a baby. I had
that's a big fucking baby.
I know. I had like long underwear, white, and I had a diaper with pins. I had a pair of work boots that I painted white and put white laces in them and put bells in them. And then my mom's sister, who was a really good seamstress, Duck, the one we called Duck, her name was Mary. She made me a bonnet, a baby bonnet, and it was adult-sized baby bonnet. And then I had like a cape, so it was almost like Baby Man
Underpants.
Yeah. It was almost like Baby Man, but everything was
like
white.
Captain Underpants, though.
I know, but this was in 1980.
So give people, so people who don't know who you are have an understanding. You said 1980?
Yeah.
What are your stats? Height and weight?
Well, then I was 6'2", probably about 250.
That's a big baby.
No, in fact, I might have been a little bit lighter, but I wasn't much lighter. I remember, because when we got married in 83, I remember our wedding day, I weighed 238.
There you go.
So I was in that neighborhood of 240-ish.
Hey, you were lighter on your wedding than I was on mine.
But yeah, I mean, I was a good sized fella. And, and it was so funny because I sang at the wedding, at the ceremony. Okay. My brother and I sang a song because it was one of our cousins. So we had the wedding at like 3 or 4 o'clock. I don't know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I sang at the wedding. Then, and I took a date to that wedding. That wasn't your mom.
Classy.
And so then I go home and there was an understanding. I mean, she knew I had a date,
Right.
And it was a girl I dated several times. We knew each other.
Oh, but that's what you do when you're dating.
And she just, and I just said, I got a date later. And that was your mom and I's first date. So I go there, I ring the doorbell. Your Grandpa Scully comes to the door and looks at me in the baby outfit. And he goes, "We don't want any." Because, it was Halloween. People were trick-or-treating.
Right.
And so he finally lets me in. Again, this is the first time I meet him. He finally lets me in. And he goes, "They just keep getting bigger. Aren't you too old to be doing this?" Yeah. So, but your mom was actually dressed as like a ringmaster. She had a top hat, a leotard, black tights, and a tux jacket with tails.
Like for
all
a
black.
circus or ringmaster?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
a female ringmaster at the circus. Yeah.
Well, at least you guys coordinated your outfits.
So yeah. So
This
then
is Mr. Giant, baby.
so then yeah.
From the
So
freak
we went so then we went to this bar where they were having a party, and I knew because the reception, I don't know why it was, but it was 3 or 4 hours later when the reception started, so we didn't miss a whole lot of it. So we go to this bar, this local bar that I used to hang out, and there's and everybody's dressed up having a good time, and we only stayed for a minute. We only stayed for a little bit, and then we go to the wedding reception where nobody else is dressed up, but we are.
my goodness.
So yeah, that was our first
So
date.
everyone else is in wedding attire. and
Everyone else
you
is in
are wearing
shirts,
a diaper.
suits and ties, and
I mean, was it a more casual reception where only a few people were in suits and everyone else is casual clothes? Or was this
I
like
would say
full-on
it was
reception?
80-20, where people were dressed up
Jeez.
like in nice clothes, not dressed up in costume, but we were in costume.
No nutsack, Kenny.
So no, he wasn't on the scene yet, but I remember, my brother was, we're sitting there and we're just like chilling. We were having a good time. We danced and stuff, and they had a band and all that. And my brother is walking around and he's got a suit on. I think he wasn't in the wedding because it was a female cousin that had gotten married, but he was at the wedding, and obviously he and I sang at the ceremony, and he played guitar and I sang. And, it's the evening is, progressing nicely. Everything's going good. And my brother, who rarely would drink, he had clearly had a few pops. And he's walking around in a suit with a tie, and he's got these super thin sunglasses on indoors. Like they're really tiny, like a band over his eyes. And he, like out of the blue, he comes up, to where your mom and I are sitting, and this is our first date. And, he sits down across from us, he's drinking a beer, and right out of the blue, he says to your mom, he goes, "So, what do you think of my brother?"
Of course he would.
And everybody started laughing, he started laughing. But no,
He's always had a good sense of humor.
He really does. But yeah, so what do you think of my brother? That was the first words he said to your mom, But yeah, so the first date, I was dressed as a baby on our first date, and she was a ringmaster person.
I mean, that's it doesn't get much better than that. At least you guys are, showing up and showing out.
No, it was fun. It was, like I said, it's almost like, even when I was, when I was single, I got to where I wouldn't go out on New Year's Eve because that was amateur night, because everybody just gets wasted.
That's like the night before Thanksgiving too.
Well, that's another one. That's a big one. Right. And I used to do that. Yeah, because that was a huge party. And there was always a lot of stuff happening on that night. But yeah, but Halloween was always like those costume parties as an adult were always fun to me. I just think it's really cool that you guys are doing that with your boys and they're dressing up too.
It should be a good time.
I'm sitting here and I'm not a big like horror movie guy. I mean, I don't like all the graphic stuff. I'm not a huge fan.
You don't like gore, but something that's suspenseful or thrilling is fine.
Big time. But I noticed today, and I actually got drawn into watching one of them. Today it's on AMC or one of those channels. They're running like Halloween movies all day, like the Halloween movies. And
Yeah.
I remember,
Mike Myers Halloween, right?
yeah, Mike Myers. And I
Yeah.
got to tell you, I know I've seen some of the Jason ones. I know I again, they were so long ago. I know I've seen some of those.
Yeah.
I can't remember that I ever really saw Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I mean, I might have seen one of them. But the Halloween movie, to me, the music, number one, really helps make the movie. But man, those movies keep you right on the edge of your seat. To me, because that dude is one scary dude.
And the biggest thing is they match the intensity with the fact that he only walks. Like he won't run after you, and you're like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?"
And he always shows up. I mean, he'll get hit by a train and, have a railroad tie driven through his chest, and all of a sudden he's gone.
Yeah.
He gets up and walks away.
So what's your favorite Halloween movie? And it can be the same or different, but what's your favorite like scary movie?
Well, I like scary a lot better than like eerie, scary kind of movies, a lot better than I like the gore movies.
Right.
For Halloween movies, I really do believe that the originals, and I didn't know this.
It doesn't have to be Mike Myers. I just mean Halloween themed.
No, I would say that it probably is. The Exorcist, I think the original Exorcist is right up there for me. That's a really scary movie to me. And it's obviously a classic, but I think
it's gross.
Now, if they did a remake of that movie now, the special effects would be so much better, and they were good then for the day. But I remember seeing that movie, and a buddy of mine and it was in the afternoon, I think on a Saturday, and we didn't have anything to do. And it was like, well, let's go see that movie, because it had been in the theaters, and I had heard stories about people running out of the theater. And there were so many things in that movie that they did to attract attention to it. Like, that movie was filled with subliminal messages, like the little flash of a frothy bottle of Coca-Cola.
Right.
You couldn't consciously perceive, but it was there. And subconsciously you would get that. And there was all kinds of stuff that was said about that movie. So a buddy of mine and I can't remember, one of my athlete friends at the community college, gave me a joint, and we went to see that movie in the afternoon. And there were people that ran out in the middle of the day, that ran out of The Exorcist. And I mean, we went there and we were stoned to the bejesus belt. And did
you see that fucking shit?
Yeah,
that bitch is
we were just kind of sitting there entranced by it. But that one has always stuck with me as being a scary movie. But again, there's a lot of eerie, scary stuff in that. But I really do think, as far as just horror movies, I think the Halloween series, and I don't even know how many of them they made, but they've made a bunch of them.
They're still making
I've
them.
seen most of them. And even though I don't like all the gore, those movies are pretty scary to me. They really are. I know an eerie, scary movie that you like, and I like too, is Fallen with Denzel Washington. It's about the devil, and that one.
Yeah, it's about a demon Hazazel, and he like possesses you.
Yeah, and how he can move from one person to the other, and I mean it's just.
And I love the opening line of the movie. Let me tell you about the time I almost died.
Yeah. And that's the devil talking. But when I was, when I had the bad knee injury and I was in a cast from my inseam down to my toes, totally immobile, I basically stayed in our downstairs you know, because we had a bathroom and everything down there, and I stayed down there for probably 2 or 3 weeks until they split that cast so I could take it off because it was so hard to get around. I woke up in the middle because I was sleeping in a lazy boy chair, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and that movie was just starting. And it was probably at like 2 a.m. That movie Fallen with Denzel Washington was just starting. And I started watching it. I had to quit watching it. Because, I mean, I'm down there, it's like 3 in the morning, and I can't move. And I didn't like this situation.
Oh, and it's got one of those like jingles in it, you know. I don't know the guy's name, but the guy who's the husband in the show, Roxanne. Or Roseanne, sorry, Roseanne.
Oh, yeah, John Goodman.
Yeah, he's in that. And it's like different people sing it throughout the movie, but when they are possessed by the devil, it's time is on my side.
The old Rolling
yes,
Stones.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like when they start singing it, it gets pretty creepy.
but you know, again, when your mom and I first started dating, I want to say one of our first half a dozen dates was we went to see Halloween 2, the Michael Myers Halloween 2. Again, not my favorite genre, but it was the best thing showing at the time. And, you know, when it's cold outside, you either go to dinner and or a movie or both. And we went to see that, and your mom really doesn't like this stuff, but it was scary. Well, how about you?
For me, scary movies, I mean, obviously you've got ones like The Exorcist, you've got ones like The Omen, like Damien from The Omen.
Oh, that's a good call.
You've got The Shining.
Yeah.
But probably the one that stuck with me, and it could have been, you know, how old I was when I saw it, I don't know. But the one that just, no matter when you watch it, it's just creepy, and it's because it's so dated, is Black and White Night of the Living Dead.
Great movie. That's a great movie.
But that one's creepy as hell to me, and I think it is the era that it was filmed in. It just makes it even more eerie. For Halloween themed movies, one of my favorite movies of all time, and it probably will be my favorite Halloween movie unless something incredible comes out, is Rob Zombie's Halloween, and it's the 2007 Halloween movie. So this is the one where you see Michael Myers as a child when he starts to become the killer. Like when
I remember that.
Yeah, so you got the skinning of the animals, and then eventually he works up to like his abusive father and all this stuff. And the doctor really talks about like looking into his eyes and seeing the eyes of a psychopath, and it's kind of him growing up in that psych ward. And the character who they have play him when he's a full-grown adult has like a long mop hairdo, like down to his chest, and the guy in real life is 6'9". I mean, he is a giant man. And so it's like he becomes this monster, which then when you embrace like the walking and like grabbing a hold of someone by their neck and like just all those moments that are in the Michael Myers Halloween movies where it's super intense and he's about to get you or he gets a hold of you and you can't move. He was actually of the size and frame to be able to do some of that stuff. So it made it that much more intense for me. Now, when that movie was released, I believe there's a final cut and a director's cut, and there's a couple scenes that are changed. But every now and then they will air, it's like the uncut theater version. I can't remember what they call it, but I saw that movie in the theater. And there's a scene in that movie that was one of the most brutal scenes that I've ever watched in a film. And it's only in the theater version of the movie. And so you can't, I mean, I have the movie on DVD. You cannot find that scene anywhere. When he is breaking out of the psych ward, there's a female police officer who tries to stop him. And she has like a 12 gauge pump action shotgun. in the director's cut and the final cut, he like either smashes her head off the wall or hits her in the face with the butt of the shotgun and kills her. In the theater, and this is one of those scenes that like it'll never leave my head because it was that disturbing at the time. I'd never seen anything like it. He puts that 12 gauge against her neck to choke her out on the wall, and he lifts her off the ground and he racks the pump action and it cuts her throat.
I remember. I've seen that.
And it was just like so brutal, but again, it's not like I enjoy that, but it just
it's
that
something
movie
you remember.
captures Michael Myers as more of a psychopath that makes him humanized versus like the other ones are more mythical. Like where he gets hit by a car, it lights on fire and explodes, and then he walks, or they can't find his body. That doesn't happen in this one. In this one, he's very much more like a real human being, but he's just a giant man.
Great call on the Omen movies. I liked both of those, and both of those had like real movie stars in them. On the Night of the Living Dead, I remember seeing that at the Jackson Drive-In, Alan and I.
And that shit'll make your skin crawl.
And we were basically flipping a coin, and where were we going to stay? Because we were either I was staying at his house, or he was staying at mine. Yeah. And one other one, but the Omen movies, that's a great call on those. Those were, and that's again, there was some gore in that, but there was a lot of mystical stuff. One movie that, because your mom will get into movies like that, not really gory ones, but really eerie ones. And one that I remember that we watched, and it was about all these, it was this couple that was into all this paranormal stuff. And they would like, determine if there are ghosts in your house. And, and they happened upon this one where there was, they were trying to exorcise a demon. It called The Conjuring.
Oh, yep.
And that actually was pretty good, and it was pretty scary. But that's a good call on the Omen movies. I had forgotten about those, and those were Gregory Peck was fantastic in that.
Another one
really, really good
that I find creepy. It's not like one of the scariest movies, but it's definitely eerie. And it is a little bit more gory, even though I'm not into that. I think it's called Ghost Ship. And on Ghost Ship, it's like the ship is haunted, and I think it's now just a vessel that's floating in the ocean and nothing's there. But when the movie takes place, it takes you back in time, back to when the ship was like brand new and all these rich and famous people were on there having like a big party. I don't know if it was New Year's or what. But essentially all this crazy stuff happens where the ship essentially turns every inch of it into like a Final Destination scene. Where it's like, the bolt comes loose and this happens, or like, something falls, hits the piano, and the piano wire comes off and it like cuts a dude right across the face. Like,
the chain reaction things in those movies is fascinating to me. In all the Final Destination ones, all that chain reaction stuff.
Yeah,
I just find that fascinating. I'll tell you one that I don't know how famous it is, but to me, it's one of the scariest movies that I can recall. And I think you probably have to buy it, because I've looked to find it to, watch on Netflix or Prime or whatever, and I haven't been able to find it. It's called Phantasm. That movie to me was and it's still scary.
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen it come up like on like our Xfinity guide before, but I don't think I've ever watched the movie.
Phantasm 2 is okay, but Phantasm is excellent. And it's just, to me, it's creepy, scary. There's a great big dude in it who's really scary. And that movie's very scary to me. But I haven't been able to find it, on anywhere. I don't have necessarily have the premium movie channels anymore, but I haven't been able to find that movie because I'd watch it again. But that's a scary movie. That's a really
I mean, I'll
scary
never
movie.
watch The Ring again.
Well, yeah.
That's
I
because it
actually
scarred
did
me
watch.
as a child.
Yeah, I actually did watch that again not that long ago. In fact,
I mean,
I
you
think
want to
we
go
watched
ahead.
The Ring and The Ring 2 back to back. Your
You
mom
got
and I did.
problems, Holmes. You got real problems. There's no way I'm watching that shit. One,
That's pretty crazy.
little girls creep me out. I'm just.
That's fair.
They
That's
do.
fair.
Like I told Melissa that. Like JJ sometimes will wake up before we do, and it might be 4 a.m, and he gets out of his room, walks across the house, and opens our door, and he will stand there like a little psycho. He will stand next to my bed, and he like pets my forearm like I'm a dog. And he just rubs it back and forth until I wake up, and it's like, what the hell, man? And I don't know why. I've told him I don't like it. I don't know why he does, but he does. He comes up to me all the time, and he just like rubs my hand back and forth, and it's like he's a little kid, so his hands are all soft, but it's just like it makes it even more creepy. If a little girl did that, she would be off of our balcony within a millisecond. I mean, my fist would torpedo through the back of her head. I would hit her so hard. They just creep me out.
The little girls are creepy. That's pretty creepy. No, I mean, there's a bunch of scary ones. Like I said, the Omen ones, that's a good call because those were really, and it's a good movie to me. It's a good enough movie where it holds your attention, and then all of a sudden you're in, and then when something happens, it's like, man, it's got you, and it's like you almost jump out of your socks. You know, to me, that's kind of scary movies that I like, that I enjoy. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I mean,
I'm
Talking Tina with the Twilight Zone, right? That little
yeah,
girl.
That's another. Yeah,
My name's Talking Tina, and I don't like you. It's like I'm about to grind this fucking doll into powder. Are you kidding me?
Well, he
I
tried.
mean, have
that.
we shared the Ring story?
No,
I don't think we have, and I feel
don't
like
think we
that's something that with Halloween being here today, that's probably a story that we should share. So, how old do you think I was? Any idea?
8, 9.
Well, we're in the new house, so probably 10, because I think we moved when I was 10.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you guys weren't old. I'm gonna look it up real quick so we'll know. But it's 2002, so you were 10.
Yeah, so we decided it's a good
you
idea.
You were 12. Jesus, you were 12 in 2002.
Yeah. So we decided it's a good idea to watch The Ring as a family. Now,
well,
little girls
yeah, but
creep. Go ahead.
No, it was daytime, and you guys didn't watch it. None of you did, but it was daytime, so we thought we'd watch it. Well, then all of a sudden, it starts storming outside in the daytime.
So it's no longer daytime.
Well,
it's dark outside.
It was very dark for being the daytime. I'll give you that, because it was like in the summer. I mean, it was a bad thing we had. So if anybody's seen that movie, go ahead, Jared.
No, feel free.
For anybody who's seen the movie, I mean, you're watching this videotape, and then all of a sudden it goes to static screen, just nothing,
like snow on the TV.
Yeah, and then there's a phone call, and then the person on the other end of the line says, "You have 9 days," or whatever.
There's a long silent pause, and then they go, "You have 7 days," and you'll die.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember all the details, but I do remember it was an effort to get you guys to watch it, because neither one of you wanted to watch it because you had heard from your friends that it was really scary. And so
Yeah.
Joe's 2 years older than you.
I mean, a dead girl climbs out of a well. What is not scary about
Yeah,
that?
but that wasn't even the scariest part of watching that movie was when during the storm, which happened during the movie, that all of a sudden our power goes out and our TV did that static screen. So-
All three events happened. And I remember this, and I could call. I mean, I know he's not the greatest source, but I could call Joe to verify it. And all I mean is Joe likes to embellish sometimes on his stories. But
and then the phone
so when you
rang.
watch the movie, that screen goes static, the phone rings, and then the person who answers the phone gets a bloody nose.
Yep.
And I had chronic nosebleeds as a child. So while we're watching The Ring, and I'm 12 years old, power goes out, TV goes Snow White, the phone rings because Uncle Jim's calling, but because of the storm, we can't hear him. So it's just silent. So we hang up the phone, and my nose starts bleeding down my face. I about shit my pants. I mean, that was like the scariest moment of my life. It's like, Dad, why did we watch this?
At 3:00 in the afternoon. That was wild. Well, and we eventually, I mean, the power came back on, and I remember we finished watching the movie.
Well, why not? We only had 7 days left to live.
It was either that night or the next night that, you guys, I think you guys slept in the same room that night. I think.
Oh, for sure.
And it would be like, well, Jared asked me to, and then be, no, Joe wanted me to. But either that night or the next night, your mom is having one of these nightmares, and she's literally going, oh, in her sleep. And I'm, because I've always heard that you don't, alarmingly wake somebody up from their sleep. You kind of just put pressure on them and try to wake them gently. So I'm trying to do that while your mom's still going, oh, in the middle of the night.
Boy, that's
Joe comes thundering down the hallway to our bedroom. And he grabs your mom while she's in bed. And he goes, would you stop it? You're scaring us to death.
That's pretty funny.
All that's true, though. I mean, I remember all those things happening. And it was ironic, and it was a coincidence or a series of coincidences. But all that was true. And for anybody who's ever seen that movie, The Ring, it does kind of stick with you. Because like you said, that girl's creepy. No doubt about it.
And she climbs through the TV all dripping wet
Yeah.
and shit. It's like, bitch, I'm going to send you straight back to hell. Oh, man.
No,
Get the guns.
That's a true story. And I know people are going to say, well, you're making that up. It's like, no, we're not. That's 100% true. All that stuff
and
happened.
as a young kid, I didn't understand it. That was probably the worst part. Is it's like, if that happened to me when I was 20, I'd have been like, boy, that was creepy. How coincidental that was. But as a 12-year-old, I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Well, I told you, Alan and I are 16, 17. Go to the drive-in, watch a scary movie, and one of us spent the night at the other one's house.
Oh, I remember when I was a little kid. We had to have been in the new house because Joe and I had separate rooms. But I went in there and I slept on his floor. And I go, "Will you hold my hand?" And he's like, "No." And I go, "Don't act like you're not scared." And then he held my hand.
That's good. That's good stuff.
I mean, it's good to have a brother,
it's a scary movie when that happens. For sure it's a scary movie. Anyway, Happy Halloween to everybody, and I hope all the trick or treating goes well, and I hope everybody has fun and is safe tonight. But I know that we had wanted to talk we wanted to talk about a few things, college football in general. And
yeah, some big news.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was shocked, honestly, that Penn State gave Ohio State the game they did. I really was. And Ohio State pulled away at the end, and they showed their talent level, which they've clearly got a tremendous amount of talent. And I'm not an Ohio State guy, but that team's loaded. There's no question. And when Penn State had finally made enough mistakes, which they made several in that game, and you can't, against Ohio State, in my mind,
you gotta play almost perfect football.
You really do. It has to be your best game. But it also showed how different of a team Penn State was at home than they were on the road, because we saw Michigan embarrassed them. They hung with Ohio State. They had a 5-point lead in the fourth quarter, I think.
Well, I watched that part of that game, and I know that Penn State's better at home, but obviously I have my reservations about Michigan this year because we keep kicking field goals and not putting 7 on the board, and that's a couple games in a row now. But when I look at us playing Penn State versus Ohio State playing them, I thought we were just consistent throughout the whole game. And Ohio State, it was like you almost had to wake them up. And I know Ohio State always shows up to the Michigan game, but it just kind of showed me when watching Penn State play Ohio State that it's like, if you can hang with them, if you can stay with them, they are beatable. They're not this unbeatable juggernaut. But not only that, in my opinion, Michigan is, 10 times or more explosive than Penn State. So if we can get to the fourth quarter tied, close, or with a lead, and then have a couple explosive plays, they're beatable. And so
I would agree that
I
think they're beatable, but I also agree that I said it last year when Michigan played Ohio State. If we play our best game, I think we could give them a game, and we ended up beating them. We got to play our best game, and like you said, that doesn't include kicking field goals. That's what Ohio State did against us last year. There was a couple times they settled for field goals, and Michigan wasn't going to allow that to happen. Well, Ohio State, you're going to pay for that because they're extremely explosive, and they showed it against Penn State. I mean, they just started walking away. I want to say they had 4 plays and. They had 4 plays that covered 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in 34 seconds. That's how explosive they are. So, like you said, I'm worried about Michigan State. Hang on just a second because I'm getting a phone call. So if you can carry me for just.
Yeah, not a problem. But with the Ohio State thing, I have the same worries that you do about kicking field goals. I definitely do. We have to put 7 on the board. I think Michigan dominated Michigan State this weekend. But the scoreboard doesn't look as bad as the game was just because we consistently kicked field goals and it was over silly mistakes and not scoring in the red zone. And against someone like Ohio State, against a powerhouse like that, I really do think that you have to finish those drives. Again, if we can stay in the game when we go to Ohio State at the end of the season, which we've, that's the goal, is to be undefeated when you get there. If we can stay in the game and play our brand of football, I think that we can wear them down. I think that every second you're in that game, they become more beatable. It's a more attainable goal. You keep being physical. You keep beating them up and slowing them down. And then if you have that opportunity to get a couple explosive plays in the fourth quarter, now you're playing winning football. But if you let them get on a roll, just like they did against Penn State in the fourth quarter, it's like Ohio State's as talented as anybody in the country, and they can put up points. I mean, like you wouldn't believe it. They're a very high-powered offense. They're
time
coached,
big time, and I really do believe that as far as Michigan, I think they're beginning to take the wraps off McCarthy, and I think you're going to see it even more because I do think he can throw the ball downfield, but we still haven't seen a lot of that. And I really do believe that's going to happen. I tell you what, Jared, Bielema's got them playing great. We've got, who do we have? I know we have Rutgers and Nebraska, I think. And then we have Illinois. And then Ohio State. And Illinois is playing really well. And they're very physical. They can run the ball, and they've got a good defense. So I think that as Michigan, I really do believe that they're beginning to try and take the wraps off of, to loosen the reins on McCarthy a little bit. As he gains confidence, they gain more confidence than him. I wonder, like everybody else does, if our red zone troubles aren't at least us having two offensive coordinators isn't partially responsible for that, because it just looks like we're out of sync when we get in there. And, I think our O-line is good, and I think we do wear people down and can wear people down. But I think that we too many times depend on just talent. And, Michigan State showed you those rosters are not comparable. Our roster is so much better than them right now.
I'm just looking at the stat line, and it's like turnovers were tied at 1 each. Okay. First downs, Michigan had 27. Michigan State had 11. Total yards, Michigan had 443. Michigan State had 252. Time of possession, Michigan had 40 minutes and 33 seconds. Michigan State had 19 minutes, 27 seconds. I mean, it was just pure domination, but Michigan couldn't put 7 on the board.
Well, again, the 5, and it's great that we've got, a good kicker, and he is really good, but you're right. We've got to clean that up.
It has baffled me this season with McCarthy at the helm, at quarterback. If you have a quarterback who potentially, and I think in a lot of people's eyes, throws better on the run than he does with his feet set in the pocket, if he's at least, semi-comparable throwing on the run, in the red zone where the defense is squatted down and everything's tightened down, right? It's harder to get your offense moving, and that's where you're struggling. It blows my mind that you wouldn't go read option pass or option pass, where you have a rollout where you either have the read option, if it's open, you give it to the back, QB keeps it, rolls out, and it's either scramble or throw, or you immediately go out from, I guess an abbreviated or a shortened shotgun, and you have the option to pitch it to the back or throw it, but have a flood pattern and just have that option there, because you've got a mobile quarterback. He can throw on the run. You've got one of the best running backs in the country. You've got a good tight end, and you've got a couple really good receivers. And it's like, why are we limiting ourselves in the red zone? You don't use one of those options on each play. Use all of those options on one play.
I think I really do believe that this is part of a plan that we don't get. I really do. I mean, I believe that. And I think it's all about Ohio State. And I think some of it better be about Illinois, is because I think we'll beat Rutgers and I think we'll beat Nebraska. And we can do that just on talent, because we're more talented than them. I think you're going to see a lot more Roman Wilson. You're going to see Andrel Anthony. Where's he been all year? you know, and then Cornelius Johnson's a good receiver too. And I think
we
you're going to
saw
see.
this. Go
I
ahead.
think you're going to see McCarthy roll out and not throw on the run, which he is good at, but stop and plant and throw a deep ball.
Yeah.
Like it just be a
And
moving
right now,
pocket.
I think they got him pulling the string too, because he had a couple of those overthrows early, like early this season. And so now on his deep balls, some of that shit's underthrown. And I think they're trying to hone him in. And so it's like he went from overthrowing to now it's a little too soft. And it's like, give him a week or two, and he's going to be right there on the money.
I really do look to see a moving pocket where he's not going to continue to roll. He's going to stop and plant and look for a deep ball down the middle or maybe even on the other side of the field because his arm's that strong. And he's got Roman Wilson is fast enough. Andrel Anthony's fast enough. I think Cornelius Johnson's fast enough. They can all get deep.
And Bell.
And Bell's a great receiver, but he's not deep speed guy.
But he does get open. Like he does. If you're going to roll the quarterback out and he's got a combination route, I mean, he's going to wiggle somebody, and that's the guy who I'm running like an out and up with or a post corner with.
And then you've got Schoonmaker, who is just a man. I mean, that guy's
a great fucking tight end. I mean,
he really has developed into.
He plays the position like it's supposed to be played.
Yes,
and I love that.
So. That to me, he is a tight end. I struggle with all these guys who I call H-backs or whatever.
I struggled with that all kid who clearly is a great athlete, but it's like he doesn't block that well, and he's dropped a lot of open passes. What part of him's a tight end? He might be a physical specimen, but so was fucking Eric Ebron, and he sucked with the Lions.
Now, see, I disagree with you about All on blocking. All is a guy who you can tell he likes to block. No, he has dropped balls. I'll give you that. But I think I've watched because Jacob would bring that up and you'd bring it up, and so then I'll watch.
I think Schoonmaker's a better blocker.
He probably is. He's a bigger guy, and
he's got better hands.
But I think
he doesn't have the wheels.
I don't think he's as fast as All.
No,
but
he does not.
All does like to block, and because I've watched that, and he does. Now, I don't want to go deep dive into this, but you've seen the footage on the fight.
Well, before we get there, I just want to make one more comment about something I'm hoping to see. With Michigan football, and we saw it last week against Michigan State, only for a couple plays, but I think this is what makes Michigan the most dangerous on the field at any time. When you put Corum and Edwards on the field, and you have Edwards in the slot, because we know he's a good receiver. They've said if he wasn't a running back, he'd be one of our best receivers. We've seen him catch the ball. We've seen him run the ball and do all that well. But when you're talking about a trick play with a reverse pass, or you're talking about running reverse sweeps, or you want to do a reverse that then gets pitched to the running back and you get moving, and you want to keep that defense shifting, even if it's not a trick play, when you put Edwards out in the slot, now he can be a runner when he comes in motion, but you also know he's one of the most dangerous threats to catch the ball, especially because as a running back, he's very good at making people miss in space. And then when you've got Corum in the backfield, you cannot afford to spread out and try and play zone to cover the pass. You have to clog the middle, because if you give him a small gap, Corum will take 3 yards and turn it into 11. And
you do a play action with both those guys in the backfield. You do a play action for them, where you fake the ball to Corum and you do Edwards on a wheel route. And
Minnesota did that to us a few years back.
And that's going to be deadly. But I really do think they're going to you're going to start seeing some more balls downfield, and it may be later.
You gotta get the big shots.
But it may be later, but because you're not going to beat Ohio State like that. We're running up against time here, but Ohio State is explosive on offense as Tennessee is. And I've watched Tennessee a lot. And at first, because everybody wants Tennessee to be good. I mean, they do have a program that's rich in history, and everybody wants them to be good. And I was kind of reluctant to say they're good. They're good.
Yeah, that QB's playing lights out
They're
right now.
really explosive.
And
now, they play in Georgia. I don't know if that game's in, I think the game is actually in Athens. It's not at the Georgia Dome. So it's in Athens, and we're going to find out. This is where the pedal meets the metal right here.
Well,
because
there's
I think Georgia's very good too.
Yeah, Georgia's number 1, and they're only a 9-point favorite over Tennessee. So again, I think that's going to be a great matchup, and I know we talk a lot about Michigan, and then obviously the SEC. I think we can all agree that the Big Ten and SEC are the two most dominant conferences in college football. But another reason that they're kind of the focal point is you've got Georgia, number 1, playing number 2, Tennessee. And then you've got, if Michigan and Ohio State make it unscathed through the end of the season, they're going to play each other. So Everybody's sitting there trying to count Alabama out with 1 loss. And it's like, they're very much in this thing because the top 5 teams all got to play each other still.
Right.
This isn't one of those scattered brackets where, they won't see each other till the playoff. It's like everyone's going to clash.
No matter who...
Clemson's the only one who might make it. But.
No matter who wins Georgia and Tennessee, and I think Georgia will win, but I would not be shocked because Tennessee is one of those teams. They're like K-State that we talked about off the air. I mean, you can look up and the game's 10-7, and then the next time you look, it's 35-7.
Right.
And Tennessee's like that. Ohio State's like that. They're super explosive. And we'll see this week, but you're right. There is a very, very logical scenario. Alabama could end up winning the West. They could play the winner of Tennessee, Georgia in the SEC title game. And if they win that game, they're in. There's no question about it.
Right.
If Alabama's in the West, if they beat the winner of the East, Alabama will go to the playoff. There's no question.
The thing I'm taking out of this season, and it could very well be a fluke because it's so early on, but the thing I'm taking out of this season is my biggest fear was that the NIL deals were going to ruin college football. And if they continue to get more overpaid, like the number continues to increase, I think it'll be a problem. But right now, unless it's a fluke, it seems to be making several teams much more competitive and making college football for the better. And so that,
we'll see.
I mean, again, the NIL deals bother me. It's not a personal belief that I share. I don't believe that it's right. I understand the reasoning for it, but again, we've covered that before. But a lot of teams that were not as competitive before Tennessee's come out of nowhere. Illinois' come out of nowhere. Maryland's better this year. K-State's doing good this year. Now, they've been good in the past, but they're still doing good.
Jake Moody made $1,500 Saturday.
Did he?
He's got an NIL deal that pays him $300 a field goal.
Jesus. So all of those things, it does seem to be better. And I know we're coming to the ending of the episode, but you did bring up the Michigan State fight, scuffle, whatever you want to call it, in the tunnel. So let's cover that real quickly. What are you thinking?
It's real easy to go down partisan lines on this. If you like Michigan State, then they didn't do anything wrong, or they did less wrong than what somebody sitting on the other side is going to think. I don't know what happened in that tunnel. I'm tired of hearing about the tunnel. That tunnel's been there for 100 years. There's been basically 3 altercations, and 2 of them were this year. Okay, so maybe we got to do something about security, but the tunnel, and maybe we got to time it better because both
That's
teams
it.
go
Hold
through
one
the
of the
same
teams
tunnel.
on the field.
But
Like,
that when people start talking about the tunnel, that come on, that's an easy fix. Michigan can afford to hire, you guys bounce at bars. They can put yellow vests on you guys and hire 20 of you.
just fucking team huddle at the 50 for 15 minutes while State goes into the away locker room.
Or extend halftime by 2 minutes because of it. Wait till
Right.
they're off. Wait till they're out of the tunnel.
And
It's
have a
like
guy
it-
radio in. All
yeah,
right,
It's
all's
this
clear. It
so
is dumb, but it's incredibly unfortunate. For those who haven't seen the video, again, nobody knows what preceded the event, but the video on somebody's cell phone, which has made its way to U of M police, the U of M director, as well as I believe the state police are even involved now because there's a potential assault and battery involved, and the Big Ten commissioner. There was an incident where 2 Michigan players were attacked by a large part of the Michigan State team. One of
No.
the Michigan players made it out, and after that happened, the Michigan State team split off, and I think the number used is 10. I didn't count heads, so I don't know how many, but from what's been referenced, 10 Michigan State players were pushing, kicking, and punching with full pads, cleats, and helmets a Michigan player that did not have his helmet on. I watched them throw him into a brick wall, and I watched them kick him while he was on the ground. He got up and got away, and the story that I had read as of yesterday was that he has a nasal injury. They think it's a broken nose. They don't know if there's anything else.
Well, Harbaugh said today at his press conference, somebody's got a broken nose. I don't know if it was this McBurrows kid, who was the guy you mentioned, or if it was Jemin Green. But whoever, there's an incident that there's not very good video of it. But see, Michigan has cameras in the tunnel, and we're not seeing those.
Right.
That's going to be kept private. But again, it's all speculation right now. But a Michigan State player swung his helmet and hit supposedly Jemin Green, who's a starting D-back and a good starting D-back. And I don't know if it's him that has a broken nose or if it's McBurrows. The disturbing thing to me is, like you said, and I've heard 8, I've heard 10. I've watched the video. From the video that I saw, I can't tell. I've seen that there's a state trooper in there with a vest on who did nothing. We don't know. I don't know.
The fact
what
that you
happened.
wouldn't stop your teammates, though, that's what bothers me. Because in the beginning of that video, there's 35 state players there.
Oh, for sure.
And they're not pulling their teammates off of him. They all just walk away.
The worst thing about that is once he's down, and the kid wasn't even dressed. He's injured.
Yeah,
This
no pads.
McBurrows kid, he had his jersey on, but he didn't have pads on. He wasn't even dressed. And so I don't know what he was doing in there by himself. Supposedly he went by Michigan State skipping. Who knows what he said, if he said anything. But the disturbing thing to me is that not only did they push him and knock him to the ground or whatever, but that kick and stuff, that's BS. That's
some dirty
that's
shit.
thuggery, and I can't abide that.
Well, and I know I'm biased as a Michigan fan, but I think their coach is a thug.
Me too.
I think their coach is a thug. The way he behaves on the sideline and the attitude that he has, the demeanor in which he carries himself, I do think that he is a classless person. And I said that during the game before any of this scuffle happened. It's like you're seeing highlights of him on the sideline, and it's like, this is not what we want to represent our league. This isn't. This is embarrassing. And now your players do this?
If you saw Harbaugh He was coming across the field looking for Tucker to shake his hand. There were scuffles on the field. There was a lot of pushing and a lot of jawing going on. Harbaugh diverted and went to get his guys and push them back. Tucker didn't do that. To me, that says a lot. But again, Michigan State fans are going to look at it
right
and
behind
say,
Harbaugh the whole time.
Something totally different. It's partisan lines are drawn. It's really, the State fan's going to see it one way. 4 players are already suspended.
Well, that's it. Regardless of partisan lines, we can all agree that it wasn't nothing that started this. Like, somebody was talking shit. That always happens in sports. That's what starts the fight. There's probably a shove or something somewhere. And it's like, that's the unfortunate part of having incredibly competitive spirits with one another, but also people, because they play at this level, entitled, they're going to be more agitated. But to let it explode like this and to let it get so carried away, it's like, okay, I don't know if you're a starter. I don't know if you're never going to play after this season or if you're a guy who's going to make it to the NFL, but you're risking assault. You're going to lose any NIL that there ever was, and you may never fucking play football again. I mean, how stupid do you got to be?
Of the 4 players that were suspended, 2 of them started. All 4 of them played in that game, but 2 of them were starters. So
that's just that you're going to piss away your career. And I'm saying that, like, I'm a Michigan fan and the Michigan player got his ass kicked. But it's like, even looking out for the State player, you're going to piss away your career over a scuffle and that's like getting in a fucking bar fight. It's
how dumb
are you?
Do you remember LeGarrette Blount, the running back?
Yes.
LeGarrette Blount played at Oregon. I remember watching the game. And this is when Boise State was good. Chris Peterson was still the coach there. First game of the year. And Oregon was ranked, and Boise may have been ranked. I mean, they were good then. Boise State upset Oregon. And LeGarrette Blount was on that team. He was one of the better backs in the country. After the game, Boise State, was celebrating, and a lineman's holding his helmet up like in the touchdown pose. LeGarrette Blount clocked that guy. I mean, clocked him with a fist to the jaw. I want to say he got suspended for the year. I don't think he got drafted. And it was all because of that. And to your point, to what you're saying. And LeGarrette Blount then ended up playing in the league for like 10 years.
All that's over a punch, though, not kicking somebody on the ground.
Right. But I mean, to your point about ruining your career, and it didn't ruin his, but it sure as heck damaged it. He made
a lot less fucking money because of it.
He sure did. He sure did.
Now, and again, that's over a punch, though. This isn't assault and battery.
He was a good back. But he didn't play the rest of that year, and that was the first game of the year. No, and then he didn't get drafted. And it was all because of that punch. And so like you said, these guys cost themselves a lot of money if there was money to be made. But I'm not sure. The kicking and stuff, I just really don't like. And I'm all into assault on that.
If you hit somebody in the head with a helmet, that's a weapon.
That's it. Now that's assault. That is definitely.
And if you're
assault.
Kicking somebody with cleats, that's a weapon.
I'm not going to fight you on that. But like I said, if you're a Michigan State fan, you're going to minimize this. And everybody's going to say, well, Juwan Howard slapped a coach. And he did.
Yep.
And I thought.
And he got in trouble for it.
And I did, but I didn't think it was anywhere near enough for doing what he did. I really didn't.
I don't disagree with that at all, especially because he's a leader and a role model.
He's the coach. My God.
The takeaway of this is it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment not only to both schools, but the Big Ten. But this is supposed to be a rivalry that people are proud of. That it's supposed to be a big game each year. And Yeah, it will fade a little bit as time passes, but there will always be a stain. And, every rivalry game throughout the record books has its own title. And this will forever be remembered as the one with the scuffle and the...
Well, it's Malice at the Palace.
Right.
Everybody knows what that is. Everybody who's old enough knows what Malice at the Palace means. It's the Ron Artest going into the stands.
Yeah,
and
Jermaine
everybody
O'Neal.
knows what Malice at the Palace means. This game will get a nickname. The locker room brawl, something.
Right.
The tunnel, the rumble in the tunnel, or something like that. And it's going to get a name, and it's going to carry with it. And, I've already heard it locally on local sports talk. Michigan State fans are going to minimize this, and that's fine. Michigan fans are going to take offense, and we should. We should. This is egregious. This can't be tolerated. And we've
got one of our starting defensive backs who's not going to be able to breathe out of his nose. That's fucking great.
I don't know. Again, those details, I don't know that for sure. This is just stuff that because I read about it like everybody else. But at any rate, this rivalry is going to be scarred for a while, and it's too bad. And I just think when the truth comes out, and I joked with Jacob yesterday, and again, this is a Michigan guy, and I didn't go to Michigan, but I'm a Michigan fan. So I'm a Walmart Wolverine, whatever. But I was teasing Jacob yesterday. I said, yeah, Michigan State didn't realize that their names were on the back of their jerseys.
Yeah.
While they were on video.
You jackass. I just... and it's not like your numbers in the fucking program either.
It's such a I don't know.
It's idiotic,
I'm
but that's what happens
by
when
it.
tempers flare.
I want to, because
again,
and I know, and I don't want to lose anybody here, but I want to bring up one thing that I saw yesterday, and I think you'll appreciate this.
Yeah,
this was
is
in
this
the
about
NFL.
DJ Moore?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Falcons are playing the Carolina Panthers yesterday. I just, the Lions game, I don't even want to go there. After the Lions game, which I watched most of, they immediately switch over to the Falcons and Panthers game, which is in Atlanta. The Falcons had just scored, and they made it 34-28 with the point. So they're up 6 with like 36 seconds left. So Carolina is just like bummed, they just lost in the last minute and all this. Well, their quarterback, now again, there's 36 seconds left, and I'm not sure either they had one or no timeouts. Their quarterback, he throws an out pattern. It's this PJ Walker, who's been a career backup, but because Baker Mayfield's hurt, he's their starter. He throws an out route to around the 40, their own 40. So now there's, 20-some seconds left. DJ Moore is probably the best player on the Panthers right now. If it's not Brian Burns, it's him. And he's a really good wide receiver. He played at Maryland. He's really good. He's a first-round draft pick 2-3 years ago. I mean, this quarterback drops back and just launches a ball that's flush hits him right about at the goal line. He catches it 62 yards with 12 seconds to go.
Jesus.
So now, and then he immediately rips his helmet off and jumps up in the stands in Atlanta. It's 34-34. You got to kick the point to win.
Oh, fuck. So he got a penalty?
On the point. They moved it back 15 yards. It's now a 48-yard extra point, and the kicker missed it. It goes to overtime. Atlanta wins the game.
Oh, that hurts.
That's why I wanted to tell you that story. That's control. that I don't care how good he is. I have seen other games because that rule's been in effect for ever since Emmett
Don't
Smith
take your
played.
helmet off on the field. Yeah.
Emmett Smith, when Emmett Smith would score, he'd always take his helmet off and shine for the crowd. And obviously he's all-time leading rusher. He had plenty of chances to do that. They made that a rule because of that, because it pissed so many people off. Well, this guy knows it's a rule, and if he's not the best player on their team, he's one of the top 2 or 3. And he peels off his helmet, jumps up in the stands in Atlanta. They're not in Carolina. And so he gets a 15-yard penalty. They miss the point. They lose in overtime. So, lesson learned about discipline. Don't take your helmet off on the field, youngsters. But it was just tragic. And I mean, you could just see and the coach is just livid, which he would be. And the Atlanta coach had the option of taking the penalty on the point or taking it on the kickoff. And he says, well, we'll take it on the point. Well, it turned into a 48-yard extra point, and the guy hooked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. The stats are insane, too. 50 is even worse, but above 45 yards on a field goal, you drop to like the 30% get made. But once you're above 50, it's like 10% or something. I mean, we see them made all the time, but when you factor in how many are actually missed throughout the league, above 45 yards, it is a horrible chance for you to make that field goal.
Dude,
and it's
it was
I would have done the same thing.
Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? I saw the Vikings years ago. I mean, that rule's been in effect for a long time, since Emmitt Smith played. And I saw the Vikings lose a game like that. It's just you can't do stuff like that.
It's like when people drop the ball before they cross the goal line.
Well, right, but
how are you dropping it? And it's the same thing with celebrating. It's like no one's saying you can't enjoy the moment. One, there's rules in place so you can celebrate with your team, whatever. But two, it's like go get pumped up on the sideline. Why do you got to act like a fucking stooge?
Run off the sideline and peel your helmet off. I don't take your jersey off. I don't care.
Run into the bathroom, go take a shit, and feel good.
I don't care. But you can't take your helmet off on the field, and that rule's been around forever. So again, the guy had to feel like shit. And by the way, in overtime, Carolina had a chance to win it, and they missed a field goal.
Oh, Jesus.
So then Atlanta comes down and makes it. But
yeah, that's just what a shame.
That was a bad choice by DJ Moore, who's a really good player, by the way.
Well,
very, very good player.
You know what, though? Maybe it's the ass kicking he needs, and maybe that'll change the.
I don't know. Well, in honor of Halloween, I wanted to tell you about a story about how I got pranked on Halloween one time. And this is 100% true story.
Okay.
You know, my folks, my mom still lives in the place where I grew up. It's out in the country.
Yep.
And it's, to the mailbox, it's probably 250 feet from the house. You walk up to get out to the road, it's that way. The day after Halloween, I'm like 13, 14 years old. For some reason, I went out to get the mail that day. Because again, you live out in the country, you're a kid, getting the mail's a big deal. You might actually get something. And this is, 55, 60 years ago. So I go out to get the mail the day after Halloween, and I casually walk out there, and I'm 13, 14. Without thinking, I walk all the way out to the mailbox. I open up the mailbox, I reach in, and all I feel is hair. And then I heard this giant hiss.
Somebody fucking put a possum in there, didn't they?
A live possum. Somebody stuffed that in our mailbox. And I reached in there and felt the hair on the possum, and it hissed, and
You hiss back.
I don't know, dude. No,
I shoot on the floor and ran.
I think I might have set a record on how far I jumped at any given time in my life.
Yeah,
And
I think the neighbors would have heard the fuck me from about a mile away.
and I slammed the mailbox door shut. And
Well,
so
how do
I
you get
run
him
to the
out?
house and I tell my dad, and we get a garden hoe, and my dad, stuck that hoe in there, and somehow or another he got the possum to bite onto the hoe, and he dragged it right out, and it flopped down on the road and waddled away.
I'm not kidding. There is nothing on this planet that I hate more than a possum.
They're not very
they're
attractive.
No, they're gross. They're disease-ridden little giant fucking rats. They're
Yeah.
just I mean,
And
I'm
rats
not
with
kidding,
bad
Dad.
hair.
I'm not kidding. There's no way. There's no way I'm going back out
Dude.
there with a hoe. I'd have been like, "Hey, Dad, where's the 308?" You'd been like, "Why?" I'm putting it through the mailbox. Like this fucker's dying.
Needless to say, and so for a long time, when I would check the mailbox, I would stand back. But
Yeah, no shit. Get a
I
grabber.
got to give somebody credit.
I mean, what psychopath grabbed it and put it in there?
I don't know, dude. Well, the old story is they play possum. They fake dead. So, I mean, they may have assumed it was dead and it's just laying there, but they figured they're going to play a joke on us and stuff it in our mailbox. Well, then it wasn't.
Jesus.
Maybe it was alive. Who knows? But it was a live possum in our mailbox, and that was the day after Halloween, and that's how I got pranked.
Well,
And I'll never forget it.
Next episode, we'll have to bring up the story with Joe and the possum. But I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. Are you good with that? Are you ready to wrap up?
I am.
All right. Well, for everyone who's listened and followed us this far, we greatly appreciate it. Please follow, like, share, and subscribe. Again, if you have any comments, if there is, whether you would like this to be shorter in time, if there's a topic that you would like us to discuss, or if you have any questions about a story that we've told, obviously feel free to share those with us.
Please
We'd love
do.
to hear what you guys think, and we'd love for you guys to comment. Your views and your likes on the videos, they do wonders for us and help us spread the word. If you have anyone who you think would be interested, please share this with them, because we're hoping to grow. But we both definitely enjoy this, and it's something that we would love to have keep expanding. So on that note, be safe, be smart, make good choices, and peace out.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. Love you, Dad.
Love you too.
Bye.